So on with today's Café. We want to welcome Professor Eric Williams from the School of Emerging Technologies in the Scripps College of Communication, who is speaking on how to bend minds, OU, VR, and the FBI. Eric, it's all yours.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. I'd like to thank Sigma Chi and the Office of Research and Creative Activity for having me here and having this great series. I also want to thank Kevin Price and Dr. DeWald for introducing me and taking care of all the technology. We're going to talk today about how to bend minds, Ohio University, virtual reality, and the FBI. We're going to wrap that all into about 40 minutes so that there's plenty of time for questions. But first, I want to just say that because I'm the only one up here does not mean I'm the only one that is responsible for what I'm going to be talking about. And what's really cool about this talk is we are doing something at Ohio University that nobody on the planet is doing. And we're doing it incredibly well, and nobody has any idea about it except for the FBI. And so I just want you to be really excited and proud of all the work that all of these people are doing. And so one of the things I think is great is there's 5 or 6 schools within the college, within the university, that are working together, right? And so we've got theater and VisCom, emerging communication technologies, education, nursing, all collaborating. There's the MFA in communication media arts. Woo! Alumni working on this. We have support from Research and Creative Activity, the Business Service Center, also the Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy, and local law enforcement, not to mention the Game Research and Immersive Design Lab, the Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Service, and Scripps College. So imagine all these groups working together on this project for the last 4 or 5 years. But I would be remiss if I didn't point out that John Bowditch, Jordan Herron, and John Bourne were central in making this entire project happen. Jordan's sitting right over here, so way to go, Jordan. But it gets better. This is all the people that we've been working with for the last 3 months. It's over 100 people, and we've been working on this project for 4 or 5 years, and so there have been hundreds of people working on this project. And I know I keep saying this project, and you're like, what is this project? This is how we bend minds. I'm going to tell you about this project that is actually bending people's minds. And it started at the beginning, before COVID. And we, at the Grid Lab, which is the Game Research and Immersive Design Lab, we started working with Liz Beverly from the Heritage College of Osteopathic Medicine. And we're making what's called cinematic virtual reality. And through this experimental project that we did back in 2018, we started realizing that cinematic virtual reality has this amazing effect on people. And Dr. Beverly was able to demonstrate through a 2-year research study that healthcare professionals who go through an immersive experience have a longer memory, and it affects their behavior more than the same experience through different media. Now, I am not a scientist, right? I'm much more of a filmmaker. And so I'm really proud that I was invited here to the Science Café as a storyteller and not as a scientist. So I lean more towards Coppola than Skinner, but what I'm hoping is that I instill in some of you who may be scientists this excitement to study what we're doing, because to be completely frank, we don't know what we're doing, right? We have stumbled across this amazing technology that nobody completely understands. We know how to use it, just like Coppola knows how to use film, but we don't know how it's affecting people's brains, and that's what I want to talk about. So before I start kind of diving into the specifics, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and have some certain key vocabulary. So what is virtual reality? What is an HMD? And what is agency, presence, and immersion? So I'm going to go through that really quickly. Virtual reality is when you can put somebody in an environment where nothing that they see or hear is real. Everything is digitally recreated. Therefore, what they are seeing is virtual. You do that through a head-mounted display, right? And that completely covers your vision. And then you put headphones on them, and everything that they're hearing is digitally recreated. So their environment is now virtual. We've all heard probably over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years about virtual reality. I want to tell you the difference between VR, virtual reality, and cinematic VR, CineVR. Virtual reality is probably what you think about when you think of VR. Everything is animated. You're working with avatars. It feels like you're in kind of a cartoonish world. Cinematic virtual reality uses, I'm a slide behind. So that's virtual reality. Cinematic virtual reality actually uses real cameras. And so we take 360-degree images of real live actors in real live locations, and then when you watch them through your headset, you are in that environment. It is recreated for you virtually. Now, some of you may have seen 360 videos online, and so you can actually watch it on your laptop, and you can use arrows and look around. We call that fishbowl VR. It's similar. A similar analogy would be if you want to check out fish, you can look at a fishbowl, or you can put on a scuba suit and you can jump in the ocean and experience the fish for themselves in their environment. So this is scuba diving. This is fishbowl VR. So what we've been doing at the Grid Lab at Ohio University is cinematic virtual reality. I have a quick 30-second clip to just give you an idea of what it might feel like. This is recorded from the viewer's perspective.
Okay, just let her go.
I ain't do nothing. This is your fault. You let her go.
Keith! Drop the scissors. I'm Officer Glenn. Remember me? I need you to put the scissors down right now.
Why? So you can shoot me? Go ahead. Kels tried to shoot me. Now you're gonna shoot me?
No, I don't want to shoot you. I want to help you, Keith. Your mom called. She said you're upset.
Right? And so when you put this headset on, it feels like you are standing in the middle of the library. The coach is back here. Keith is over here. The officers come in. Students escape. It's all in 360 degrees. So how does this bend minds? Good question. The first idea you need to understand is this concept called agency. An agency is basically giving you choice to make decisions, right? If you sat and watched a film, right, if you're watching The Godfather, you and I could be sitting watching The Godfather on the big screen. We are going to see the exact same 3-hour story in the exact same order. And when Coppola wants us to see a close-up of a cannoli, we're going to see a close-up of a cannoli. In cinematic virtual reality, you and I could each have a headset on and be standing in the middle of that library, and Howard might want to watch what the police officers are doing. But I might choose to watch what the student is doing, what Keith is doing. We might be in the same 20-minute experience, but have the agency to view and pay attention to completely different elements of what's going on in the environment. So that's what's called agency. An agency can be thought of in 2 ways. It's what's called 3DOF, the three degrees of freedom, which is you can move your head left and right, you can move your head up and down, or you can move your head side to side. Virtual reality often deals with 6 degrees of freedom. Not only can you move your head, but you can also move your body. You can move your body forwards and backwards, left and right, up and down. That's 6 degrees of freedom. What cinematic virtual reality does is it gives you 3DOF, and it creates this sense of presence. Presence is when you feel like you are somewhere else. right? And so I know that you're all in a cinematic virtual reality experience over in the Grid Lab, but it sure does feel like we're sitting over in the coffee shop, right? And so we have created this sense of presence. When you take the headset off, you'll actually be across the street, but the sense of presence has placed you here. Immersion is when you completely forget where you are, right? So you're home on a Sunday afternoon and you're reading a really good novel and you completely lose sense of time. Or you're playing a video game and you completely get in the zone and it's 3 hours later. That is immersion. Presence and immersion are two really important concepts that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Virtual reality tends to heighten the sense of immersion. They have a lot of interactive activities. You might be shooting guns or playing nunchucks, and you get completely lost like you would in a video game. But what's really special about cinematic virtual reality is it's only 3 DOF. You're a fly on the wall, and you're looking around, and it gives you this sense of presence. And it's important to remember that there's a difference between feeling like you're somewhere and forgetting where you are. Sometimes they feel similar, but they're very different in the way that people are processing events. Okay, so here's the thing. That's my backdrop as to what we're going to talk about. Now, what I really want to explain to you is that cinematic virtual reality was completely skipped by everybody on this planet. It kind of came into public consciousness about 7 or 8 years ago, and then everybody got swept up in virtual reality. Because virtual reality is really cool, right? You put on the headset, and it's like you're in a video game, and we've seen movies about it. It's really cool. And that's where the industries sort of went to, right? There's a lot of work being done on virtual reality for video games and also virtual reality for police training, right? Because I can be in a building and I can be practicing whether I'm shooting or not being seen, and I can move around, and it's all very exciting, very immersive. And I think about 7 or 8 years ago, people thought, oh, this is the new movie-making technology. We're all going to go to the movie theaters by putting on these silly headsets and hanging out and eating popcorn. Didn't happen. It will never happen. This is not fun to do, right? You do not do this on a date and completely isolate yourself in a headset and put headphones on and lay on the couch with your wife and watch CineVR. But what it's really good at is training scenarios. And so what's happening in the state of Ohio today is there's this group called the Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy. It's called OPATA. And OPATA trains more than 30,000 officers in the state of Ohio every year. And they are using the technologies that we're developing at the Grid Lab in order to train all 30,000 officers in the state of Ohio. And the way that it works is this, right? You get a group of 20 officers, and they are required to do 24 hours of training a year. And they might come in on a Saturday, and we call it headset on, headset off, headset on. You might have a discussion about domestic violence. Okay, we're learning about techniques and we're thinking about how a scenario might go. And then all 20 officers put on a cinematic virtual reality headset and watch the exact same scenario. They might be looking at different things, but this sense of immersion puts them in the environment. Then they can all take the headsets off. What did you see? What did you observe? What was done correctly? What was done incorrectly? What would you do differently? And because they all went through the same scenario, they can talk to each other about their opinions and their attitudes as to what they saw and what they would do differently. So I want to show you a quick example. This is one of the first ones we do. We call this our pilot episode. This is the Chet scenario. Chet is having a mental breakdown. We're not quite sure why, but the backstory is that his son passed away 3 years ago on this date, and he's having a really hard time with it. And so the police have been called. and it does not go well.
What are you doing in my house? Let me see your damn hands.
Did you touch that lunchbox?
I said put the knife down!
Get the fuck away from the lunchbox.
Drop the knife, Chet. Chet! Drop the knife!
Stop talking! It's my box. Just give me the lunchbox.
Chet!
Just give me
You're
the
not gonna see
lunchbox.
the
Oh,
lunchbox until you drop the knife!
Don't
Grab the box,
touch
Mike.
the fucking lunchbox!
Okay, so that was the last 30 seconds of this scenario. Really intense, right? And so now the officers can take the headsets off and examine what happened. What did Chet do? What did the police officers do? And if you noticed, we blocked it in a certain way where you couldn't look at Chet and the police officers at the same time, right? You had to make a choice. You had to use your sense of agency in order to choose what to pay attention to. Take the headset off and then have a conversation. Then you can go back and watch it again, and we did another scenario from a different officer's perspective, and what did he do differently? And that episode turns out in a more positive way. And then the officers can discuss what went right, what went wrong, what were the differences. Now here's where we're bending minds. Jordan and I got a chance to go and see some of these officer trainings, and after one of them, we just kind of looked at each other and went, what is going on? And here's the sentence that we heard that just blew our socks off. Remember when we were in Chet's living room? Now think about that. If a group of officers who put this headset on saw a 15 or 20-minute experience, and then as they're talking about it with each other, they say, remember when we were in that living room? Now, I'm a big Office fan. I would never say, do you remember when we were in the car with Jim and Dwight and Michael? I've seen that episode 100 times. I have never thought that I was in the car with these characters. I have never thought that I was in Don Corleone's office talking to the Godfather. Remember when we were in Chet's living room? There's something really interesting about that. Right? I'm not a scientist. Yes, sir.
So do I understand this correctly, that if the officers are comparing notes after viewing this, they may well have disagreements about what happened because somebody says, oh, did you see that so-and-so did such and such? And they say, no, I wasn't looking at him. I didn't see that. Is that right?
That is correct. And you're all sitting there together. Let's go back and watch it again. Let's go back and see what Officer Mike did. Yeah, that's exactly right. You've got it right on. And we designed it in that way, right? Because as we're going to talk about in a little bit later, you can block the scene so that everything can be seen. But you never can see everything at the same time anyway in real life, and so we block the scenes in a way to make it so that people watch it differently. Okay, so if any of you are scientists and are interested in figuring out why the sense of presence is so strong that people talk about it in first person as if they were there, I would love to know the answer to that. Right? So it has something to do with presence. It has something to do with people feeling like they are actually there. But then to talk about it in that way, I think is just phenomenal. So interesting, in fact, that the FBI gave Ohio University and the Grid Lab the award, the FBI National Academy Award for Science and Innovation. Thank you. Thank you. Woo. Right, and so that was a huge recognition from a federal agency that is doing kind of the highest level of training of law enforcement. And I truly believe this. The world skipped over CineVR, and Ohio University grabbed onto it, and we've been working on it for 7 years. We're really, really good at it now. We make 6 episodes for Opata every year. It's basically the equivalent of a 360-degree feature film. It's about 100 minutes of content, and it's episodes that have the same characters. It's almost like watching a television series where the officers and even the civilians keep recurring, and we've been telling a story for 3 years. We're in post-production on our 3rd season, and it should be done around spring break. But I want to tell you a little bit about the technology. Right? I brought a big camera. This was one that we first bought 7 or 8 years ago for about $10,000. If you can imagine, it's shooting camera footage in every direction. And each lens is a fisheye lens, and so it's capturing up top, down below, and when you put this headset on, it's as if your head is right there, right? Because we have created a bubble of footage, of video, that will allow us to look in every direction. This is what the camera looks like today. It costs about $500. They've gotten a lot smaller, and actually this is better quality than this behemoth. And this is the audio, right? And so what you also want to do is have what's called a 360-degree ambisonic microphone, and it's capturing audio in every direction. And that audio and that video swivels with your head as you move the headset. So for instance, if Dr. Linscott over there is making a lot of noise, he's on my right? And as you can imagine, in a theater, we would hear him on my right. But in ambisonics, I might have turned around because I have agency and I choose to look this way. I now need to hear Dr. Linscott on my left. And so the audio changes and shifts just like the visuals. And so you're recording everything in every direction all at once. Now, what makes what Ohio University does kind of top-notch is we are taking a cinematic approach to this. So there's a lot of people out there doing 360 video, and what they basically do is they turn the camera on and they record it, and it's great for documentaries. Right? You can go out and you can go to a protest and you can record. You can see in every direction. But we really pay attention to lighting. We do high-quality lighting. We really pay attention to wardrobe like you would for a feature film. Makeup and props, super important. And then the locations, right? So we work with the nursing department. They have been kind enough to let us use their nursing facility. And so when we shoot scenes that need to take place in a hospital, it feels like you're in a real hospital. If there's a woman about to jump off the bridge, we go out and shoot on a real bridge. And we hang the camera off 50 feet above. We put her in a security rig, but we make it as realistic as possible. And then we shoot to capture really powerful images, right? And so the blocking and the way that we work with actors is all to not only create this sense of presence, but also to create something that people will remember really specifically. Okay, so are we still bending minds? Yes. So here's the second layer of bending minds that I just think is fascinating. There's a way that we are discovering to engage with people, and we're learning how people watch what we make, and they watch it differently based on where the camera is positioned. So this is based on this group from Stanford working with the National Film Board of Canada. They did an experiment with 360-degree storytelling. It's based on this tragic true story. There was this foreign exchange student. He came to the United States. He was very depressed, and he ended up committing suicide. And what they did is they recreated his final evening in 360 degrees, and with an actor, obviously. But think about the information, right? And so if you just think on purely data, I am not a scientist, right? But there's data in this room, right? Each of us has information. There might be something on your laptop or on your phone. And in this story, right, this guy had books that he was reading. He was drinking and eating things. He had letters and notes. And Tom was alone in his world. And by telling the story, by capturing all of that data in a 90-degree chunk, you could tell that story. You could take that same data, that same information, and capture it in 180 degrees. Or you could take that information and spread it all around the room. They did the exact same story, but in 3 different ways. And so if you can imagine what a 90-degree image is like, right? We're data in this room. If I take this camera and I put it here, all the data is in 90 degrees. If I put the camera up on stage where I was standing, everything's in 180 degrees. And if I put the camera over here, right, all the same data would be in 360 degrees. So based on where the camera is placed, the data is the same, but it's recorded differently. Here's my question to you. This side of the room is not allowed to answer. What do you think they found? What's the difference between capturing it 90 degrees versus 360?
360 people could recognize it better.
Recognize what?
Like that, or sorry, remember it better, and that they were in like a real or scenario.
That's a great start. What are they remembering? Because you're absolutely right. They remember something more particular in 360.
They remember maybe the character or more little details.
You are on the right track. So you're saying they remember the details more when it's in 360 or 90?
360.
Here's what we found. They remember details better when all the information is in 90 degrees, but their emotions aren't as strong. So I liked what you were saying about they connected more with the person, with Tom. When it's in 360 degrees, they really connected emotionally with Tom, but they couldn't remember the details. I don't know why that happens either. It does, but no, here's what I'm saying. Let me give you an example. 90 degrees would be this. Right, so we have a scenario where officer arrives, comes up to a door, knocks on the door. Hey, we got called here because you and your wife are yelling and fighting. It looks like this.
What's going on? You remember me?
I remember you. You remember me?
Yeah, and I remember you telling me I'd never have to come out here again.
Huh, so?
So what's going on, Tommy? Why am I out here again?
Nothing.
Please don't leave.
I mean, you're here, I'm here. Think you're going to arrest me? Right, whatever. This is my house.
I understand that, Tommy. Mind if we come inside and have a conversation?
No, man. It's my house. You stay out.
So it's in 360. You could look behind you and you'd see the grass and the neighbors. But there's no story information other than just in this sliver. As opposed to this scenario, 2 officers come into a locker room and they're arguing with each other.
Listen, all I'm saying is you lay your hands on me again, you're gonna need new hands.
Yeah, and then we're both gonna need new jobs. Is that what you want here?
You don't know shit, old man.
Yeah, well, I know if you laid your hands on them, we'd both be done. That's
And
what...
I know I've been out there 3 times since the 4th of July.
And I know if you can't control yourself, you can't control others. That's
Nice catchphrase, Big Bird. You get that from one of your training sessions? I gotta make a call.
Yeah, who you calling?
The prosecutor to talk about a felony enhancement. I told you that.
right? So that's a story that takes place, but only in 180 degrees. We shot it with a 360 camera, and if you turned around, you could see the lockers. But the data for the story is only in 180 degrees. We find that people who watch a scene shot in 90 degrees, they remember the details. They don't remember, they're not as emotionally connected. Complete opposite in 360.
I think we can compare it with putting a teaspoon of sugar in a cup versus putting it in a jug or a bigger container. So if it's a smaller angle, smaller quantity, it's more concentrated, it's easier to remember and easier to...
Yeah, I love that metaphor. It's like putting a spoonful of sugar in. So because we're spreading the content around, we remember it less?
It becomes more difficult to read. It's more spread out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a good observation. Sir, you in the back.
There's more detail, and so it's harder to remember specific details because there's more. When you go all the way around, it becomes more like the real world. And so that's how you get emotionally connected. It's no longer a movie or it's not a TV show. It feels much more like the real world.
Yeah. Huh, that's a great observation. Yes, sir.
Yeah, in a 360 movie, actions are going on at the same time. So if one person is looking at a different direction, simultaneously, the other person, something is going on behind. Mm-hmm. So when you are looking at this side and something happens at your back, unless you turn, you look at that direction before you see what happened. So you might not get the exact details as compared to where you have 90 degrees and everything is happening in front of you.
Yeah. That's a great point. I want to illustrate that for everybody. Right, so here's a third one. This is a good example of 360-degree capture. It's the story of two officers who have arrived at a basketball court. There's been a stolen bicycle, and they don't know who the suspects are, but they know that the suspects are in the park. And so we put the camera here, and as I play the clip for 30 seconds, you'll see that they're looking both left and right. And just as KK pointed out, if you turn your back to watch Officer Burke, you can't see what Officer Glenn is doing and vice versa. Here's a good example of that.
15 to 33.
15 to 33. How long you been practicing this morning?
I've been here since 8:47 a.m.
Well, that's pretty early. You here all by yourself or someone else out here with you?
Yeah, until Keith Brightmore came in at 9:10 a.m. He plays on that end. He always plays at that end. He's taller than me, black hair. And
I know Keith. You guys go to school together?
There's the bicycle.
What time did you get here today? To the park?
Oh, my God, bro.
I said sit your ass down.
Hey, I ain't gotta do nothing, cop. I ain't under arrest.
Yeah, well, you're about to be.
Man, whatever, bro.
Get back up.
Right, so you can only pay attention to one side or the other. So why is 360 placement more emotionally, why does it connect more emotionally? Yes.
I feel like it'd have something to do with, like, they have to put the pieces together. Like, it's not just given to them and, like, displayed that this is what it is. They have to look at the bike and then look at the people and then make that connection how they fit in to this particular situation.
And do you think that connects with people more emotionally or intellectually?
Emotionally, because they're using their lived experiences to apply it to the specific situation and, like, using their past experiences to connect what is going on right now, you know?
Yeah.
Rather than just it's given to you.
Yeah, that's really thoughtful. Yeah, that's great.
I wonder if it has something to do with the way vision works. Like whatever you're looking directly at, you have really strong focus on, but as you get farther away from it, it becomes more blurred. And then, so as you give them more to look at, more of the scene becomes blurred to them. and then they have to rely on hearing because that's another sense you've provided them. So maybe that's what they're just getting more information, and it becomes easier to connect with, harder to process.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that we've tried really hard to do, and it's been suggested that we do the opposite, which is use music. And we've taken all music out unless it's diegetic to the scene. And so we don't add the violins when we want you to feel sad. We don't add the rock and roll music when we want you to feel excited. And I think then, like you're saying, when things become more blurred, then you have to pay attention to the audio. And we pay a lot of attention to our sound design. And I think that might ground you, which also might, as the person previously just mentioned, right? That might connect with you more too. You're running that experience through a real life, your own personal real life experiences.
I would add to his comment that my hypothesis would be that you're involving more of the sensory system. So when you have to move your head, you're engaging the vestibular system, visual vestibular interactions, vestibular auditory interactions, which is engaging different portions of the brain. So if I'm just looking straight ahead and listening and analyzing with my eyes what's going on out there, it's primarily visual cortex and a couple areas of the brain, but now I've engaged other sensory systems that are tied to the hindbrain, which is more emotional. So that's a hypothesis that you're engaging more sensory systems and more areas of the brain, and you're probably, the emotional part overwhelms the detail part and immerses you more.
Wow. I love the Science Cafe. Yeah, that's a great hypothesis.
As I watched, I got dizzier in 3 moments.
Well, I think it's hard too to watch somebody else's, which way they would move their head. Yes, in the back.
I also wonder if it could have something to do with, like, the 360 feels like real life, and in real life situations that are stressful and emotional, you have a tendency to not notice details as much because you're focused on the high stress situation. And you don't really, that's why, like, people in traumatic situations, a lot of the times they have, like, different interpretations of what happened. Like, oh, I noticed this happened, but the other person didn't see that at all, because whenever we're in a stressful situation, we don't really pay attention to the little things. It's mainly just what's happening in front of us.
That's fascinating, right? And you and I might have very different things that we're hyper-focused on. And so we would, in real life, right? And that way we might remember things very differently. These are all great. Other comments, questions? Cool. I don't have too much more other than to say that we spend a lot of time. This is one thing that I learned from my wife, Dr. Petra Williams. We do a lot of intensive rehearsals. Well, actually, we just do one really long day of intensive rehearsals. We will, if we're going to shoot on Saturday, we will rehearse on Friday, on location, in full wardrobe, in the actual place with all the props. Because we really want it to kind of sink in with everybody, and then we send them home to go to sleep, right? Go to bed, let it sink in. It will help you learn not only your lines, but it'll help kind of ingrain what you're doing, and then we go back to the exact same locations the next day and get back in wardrobe in the exact same location, and then we rehearse. It's worked out a lot better that way than what we had done before. But one of the things you can imagine, this is more of just a funny anecdote, we shoot these scenes in their entirety. And so if it's a 7-minute scene, we turn the camera on, we call action, and if there's any mistakes in those 7 minutes, cut and go all the way back and start the entire scene again and run it for 7 minutes. And we did one take, we did 28 takes of an 8 minutes. It took us forever. But it's one of those things that allows you to get immersed in it. I mean, it's really a kind of a combination between a film and a theatrical performance. You're just sitting in a room with other people. We also, we cast nationwide. Oh, sorry, question.
Oh, I have a question about smell. Do you ever like make it like the one in the park? Did you make it smell like there was cut grass or something? A lot of really hard situations have a smell about them, and I wonder if you've ever incorporated smell in any way.
We've been talking about. It's a great question. We have not yet, but one of the things we're working on is doing kind of tabletop experiences where you might have groups that are processing a complex situation, putting on the headset, taking off the headset, and it comes with a tabletop game guide. And I think that would be the perfect opportunity for smells. Because you're right, that's a really strong emotional indicator. We also, even though there's no frame, right, because it's 360 degrees, we try really hard to use cinematic techniques for all of you film nerds out there. Right, and so we try to use the environments themselves to create blocking. We try to use the colors of the costumes and the locations in order to emphasize. And we are, like I said before, we're really strong proponents of sound design. And so Jordan Heron has really developed some great audio techniques. And so one of the things we call is an audio swing. And so we can swing your attention. You don't even know where that we are controlling your attention. But if we want you to look towards the left, we will create sounds or we'll make it a little bit softer on this side. We are really good now at figuring out how to make people look in certain directions, even though they think that they do have the agency, but we bend their minds a little bit to get them to look to the left. And so one of the things that I'm incredibly proud of is through working with Opata, we have been creating stronger soft skills in police officers across the state in active listening, critical thinking, empathy and compassion, nonverbal communication, and observational awareness, and they love it. They really do enjoy going to these trainings. We have heard only positive reviews. And it's something that I think Ohio University should be really proud of is our relationship with them and the work that we're doing to kind of change the world. So anyway, I'd like to open it up to questions.
So have you seen different results in the field based on the training?
That's a great question. No. Why do you think?
I would guess that it would take a lot more exposure and a lot more training to really synthesize what the lessons are that they're learning.
That's a very polite answer. Officers don't want to be studied. We have tried to do more like in-depth studies. We've done kind of unofficial surveys of do you like it, do you want more of this? And we get positive results with that. But when we say, we'd really like to study your department, we do not get much response. And that's pretty much nationwide. There's a real resistance to being under the microscope. But we are applying for a National Institute of Justice grant to do that exact thing, and we've been working with some officers in Rhode Island to take this idea and study it. But yeah, anyway.
I have a question. Hi, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you? Good to see you.
Would it be possible, instead of researching the police directly, which, by the way, it's kind of nuts that they are, in fact, public servants with guns and they are study resistant. That feels interesting, suspicious. Anyways, would it be possible to do surveys with the community instead? Is there other ways that you can monitor the effects or the interactions that police are having in their local communities?
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. And I think there's a couple layers to that. I mean, one is if police officers do not want to be part of the studies, we're also doing very similar research with healthcare providers, right? And we're working with the nursing department. We could do these same sorts of studies to get to the same questions about the media, through studying nursing students.
Is it to the point where they're not even offering you the list of people that have taken the training?
Oh, no. I want to be really clear. The OPATA has been completely open and receptive. We get invited to observe what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They have been incredibly open to the entire process. And I'll take some of the blame, if you will. We don't do studies, right? At the Grid Lab, we would love to collaborate with people who are interested in doing these studies. But 4 years ago, right after COVID, when we rolled out our first set, we wanted to do surveys with Athens Police Department and the Athens Sheriff's Office.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, they said, absolutely not, we don't want to be part of a study.
Just because I remember being on the project 2 years ago, 1 year,
Wow,
whenever
ago.
that was, which is, and seeing how much it's grown even in a short amount of time, and thinking about this as something that could expand potentially even beyond this group of people. Maybe it's something that other communities want to engage in.
Yeah.
And being able to say, well, X number of officers participated in the training, and we saw these survey results from the community might be something.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And actually, there's an individual who works at OPATA. His name is Reverend Eddie Parker, and he is completely dedicated to community outreach. And he has said something very similar: is we should not only be showing this to officers, but we should be showing this to everybody so that they understand how stressful it is to be a police officer and some of the things that they're going through. But so maybe that's a good way in. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, maybe there's even researchers at the university that would be interested in choosing this as a research topic.
If there are any researchers at the university who would be interested, seriously, no, we would love to collaborate. We have a ton of material, we have a ton of experience doing this, and we have a lot of people across the state using this. We would love to collaborate on anybody who wants to do studies.
The other way to measure it might not just be from seeing what the experience of the officers is, but seeing what the experience of the community is.
Yeah, I think.
Maybe if you use it in a community and you don't use it in a similar community, the people will have a different and an improved experience.
That's a great.
The officers are there for the people, so if the experience is better for the people, then it made a difference.
100%. Yes, sir.
Could you talk about how you work with the customer, let's say OPATA, to put together one of these, I'll call it video, maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but do they give you kind of a high-level outline of what it is they want and you take it from there? Do you work with them extensively to iterate on the details of how they want that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, a brief overview of our development process. We typically start each spring and we outline roughly 12 ideas that they're interested in. Hey, we want the next 6 episodes to contain these concepts. And then we kind of work them into ideas. And then for each idea, we try to get 6 ideas, and an idea might have more than one topic, right? So we might have something that's about domestic violence, but it's also about duty to intervene because we want to have one officer get really angry at the husband and try to grab him. And so we kind of compact all the ideas into 6 episodes. And then we select subject matter experts. And we typically have 3 to 5 subject matter experts for each story. And we work on the stories for about 2 months. And so Jordan and I meet with, and they're typically officers, but sometimes they're community members. And we will develop the stories. And Jordan and I will write the scripts. And then we'll send them out. And we do 4 drafts of each script, each one about a week to 10 days apart. So that takes us about 2 months. That gives us the script. Then we cast actors, and when we cast the actors, then we have read-throughs and we have rehearsals. The officers are present for the read-throughs and the rehearsals, and that brings in new ideas. And then once we get on set, then there's all sorts of different things. It's like, oh, we thought we were going to do it like this, but we thought the doors were going to be here and here, and that's how the officers were going to come in the doors. Well, we've only got one door. Oh, well, that changes the whole contact and cover element. Let's rethink that. And so we're constantly workshopping. We must workshop it during rehearsals 3 or 4 different times. So yeah, and it's a lot of input and then a lot of rewrites. Oh, one more thing. I think it's really important to point this out too. We allow for mistakes, right? And so we made a decision early on in the process that officers doing bad things is not a bad thing, because that gives the officers something to talk about when the headset comes off. I never would have done it like that. Or did you see what he was doing? Oh, I was paying attention. Well, you should have seen what he did over here. Rather than having like every officer supposedly acting perfectly, or having some commander come out and say, now remember, you have to do this and you have to do that. We thought it would be better if it was much more organic. That's a really important part of the process.
So you guys have like complete control of this, of like the narrative, because, you know, whatever they tell you, what situations that they want to see. I was kind of wondering, like, I also did get here late, so maybe you already talked about this, but like, how do you guys avoid biases in the story making processes? You know, like when we looked at the domestic violence, like I'm assuming that the aggressor was the male. You know, do you guys ever switch it? Like maybe it's the female who's an aggressor towards the male. Like how do you guys try to work to erase some of
Such
these?
a great question. It's we try really hard. We probably don't do it perfectly every time, but messing it up actually is good, right? Because if it is always the male, then ideally, then when they take the headset off, somebody's going to say, why is it always the guy? Right? And the reason why I'm laughing is I think it's one of my favorite moments in developing these scripts. We were actually doing one on coercive control, and it was based on the Gabby Petito story. I'm going to go off into too many details, but the long and short of it is many officers will approach a domestic violence, and the first thing they want to figure out is who is the primary aggressor. And in the story that we wrote, the woman was the primary aggressor. But there was this whole other side of the story, which was coercive control and how he was manipulating her life and basically holding her hostage. And during the process, and this is like a 2 or 3 week process, the officers around the table each had different opinions. And they were like, I would have arrested him. Well, I would have arrested her. You couldn't arrest her. You would have to. No, I wouldn't. She was the primary. Well, he was the. Back and forth. And I was being driven crazy. I was like, okay, well, how am I going to write the ending if we can't figure out what's right and what's wrong? And Tim Ryan, Captain Tim Ryan from the OUPD was one of the people at the table. And he said, don't write the ending. Just leave it like that. He said, if the 5 of us can't agree around this table, think of how powerful that's going to be when they take off the headset and the 20 officers are going to have the same arguments. And I think that's what we're looking for, is discussion afterwards. Because I don't think the education happens in here. I think the experience happens in here. I think the education comes from 20 officers talking with each other and disagreeing and trying to find a resolution themselves. So we try to pay attention. I mean, there's so many different layers to all these different scenarios, and I try really, really hard to kind of balance everything. But at the end of the day, I sometimes feel like if I didn't balance it for one reason or another, sometimes that might be good. So.
All right, let's thank Professor Williams again, and I'm sure if you have other questions, he'll be happy to take them. So
Awesome.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Really, really appreciate it.